What if I told you that one president of the United States was so dangerously handsome and so utterly unable to resist women that people in his small Ohio hometown openly joked that he had slept with practically every attractive woman in town? What if this same man wrote more than 250 of the most explicit, passionate, and erotic love letters ever penned by any American president? Letters so steamy they still shock historians a century later. What if his longest affair was with the wife of his best friend, a woman who openly supported Germany while America was fighting World War I, turning their romance into a potential national security disaster that could have ended his career and hurt the war effort? And what if another much younger lover, a woman who had worshipped him since her teenage years, secretly gave birth to his illegitimate daughter and later claimed they made passionate love inside the White House itself, including one frantic encounter in a broom closet while a public tour group walked just outside the door? This is not a Hollywood movie. This is the jaw-dropping, meticulously documented true story of Warren Gamaliel Harding, the 29th President of the United States, the man who promised an exhausted nation a peaceful return to normalcy after World War I and the Spanish flu, yet lived one of the most abnormal and sexually reckless private lives in the entire history of the American presidency. A man whose weakness for female attention forced his own political party to pay enormous hush money, triggered massive cover-ups, led to the systematic burning of evidence, and created secrets so explosive they remained hidden for nearly 100 years until modern DNA testing finally proved every shocking detail beyond any doubt. This is the uncensored story of the American president who quite literally slept with everyone, or at least enough women, to earn that notorious reputation that still makes scholars blush. By the time you hear the full story, you will never see that handsome, silver-haired face in old photographs the same way again. Prepare yourself. This is going to be explosive. Welcome to The Forgotten Frame. Part 1. Early Life Ambition and the First Cracks in His Marriage. Warren Gamaliel Harding was born on November 2, 1865. In the tiny rural settlement of Blooming Grove, Ohio, only a few months after the Civil War ended. He was the oldest of 8 children in a family of limited means. His father, George Tryon Harding, worked as a farmer before becoming a homeopathic doctor of average skill. His mother, Phoebe Dickerson Harding, was a strong, deeply religious woman who pinned enormous hopes on her firstborn son. The family later moved to the small but growing railroad town of Marion, Ohio, where Warren spent his formative years. From childhood, Warren possessed a rare and powerful gift. People instinctively liked him. He was tall, exceptionally handsome, with striking features and thick, silver hair that made him look like a Roman senator or a silent film star. He had a warm, genuine smile and a rich, soothing voice that could hold any audience. After attending a modest local college, he tried teaching, studying law, selling insurance. Nothing quite fit until 1884, when, at age 19, he and 2 friends bought the failing Marion Star newspaper for only $300. It was a dying 4-page weekly, but under Harding's direction, it became a success. He focused on balanced local news, community events, and positive stories. His personal motto was, "Remember, there are 2 sides to every question. Get both." As the Marion Star prospered, Harding became one of the most respected men in town. He joined nearly every fraternal organization available, including the Masons, Elks, Rotary Club, and Knights of Pythias. He was a master networker who thrived on friendship and popularity. In 1891, at age 25, he married Florence Klingdewolf, a divorced woman 5 years his senior who already had a young son. The marriage was violently opposed by Florence's wealthy and domineering father, Amos Kling, who allegedly threatened to shoot Harding. They married anyway. Florence, whom friends secretly called the Duchess because of her strict and commanding personality, immediately saw political potential in her husband that he himself sometimes doubted. She took charge of the Marion Star, modernized its operations, increased its profits, and began pushing Warren aggressively into politics. Their marriage was built far more on ambition and mutual benefit than on romantic love. Florence was practical, intelligent, jealous, and iron-willed. Warren was affectionate, easygoing, and chronically restless. His extraordinary good looks attracted women constantly. In the intimate social world of small-town Marion, rumors about his wandering eye began circulating very early. One quote long attributed to Harding perfectly sums up his fatal character flaw. He reportedly confessed, "It's a good thing I'm not a woman. I would always be pregnant. I can't say no." This inability to refuse female attention would follow him for the rest of his life and ultimately reach all the way to the White House. Part 2. The longest and most dangerous affair, Carrie Phillips. The most significant and politically explosive of all Warren Harding's affairs began around 1905. Her name was Carrie Fulton Phillips. She was the beautiful, sophisticated, and intellectually sharp wife of James Phillips, one of Harding's closest friends and business partners in Marion. Carrie was everything Florence was not. She had traveled extensively, lived in Berlin, and developed refined cultural tastes along with strong pro-German sympathies. The affair between Warren and Carrie lasted nearly 15 years, making it one of the longest documented extramarital relationships of any American president. During those years, they exchanged more than 250 deeply passionate letters. Many of these letters were extraordinarily explicit by the standards of the early 20th century. Harding addressed Carrie with intimate pet names such as Constant Darling and Dearest Carrie. He wrote openly about physical longing, stolen romantic moments, erotic dreams, and emotional dependence in language that leaves no doubt about the intensely sexual nature of their relationship. When these letters were finally unsealed and studied by historians around, they caused a worldwide sensation. They remain among the most erotic writings ever left by a president. The affair was an open secret in Marion. Florence knew about it and confronted both Warren and Carrie on several painful occasions. Yet the relationship continued even as Harding rose through Ohio politics, serving as state senator, lieutenant governor, and winning election to the United States Senate in 1914. Timing could not have been more dangerous. As Europe plunged into World War I and America eventually joined the fight against Germany in 1917, Senator Harding's longtime mistress remained openly sympathetic to the German cause. Exposure of the affair could have destroyed his career and seriously damaged the American war effort. As the 1920 presidential election drew near, Carrie threatened to go public with the letters. The Republican Party leadership became terrified. According to historical accounts and later investigations, they arranged large payments to Carrie and her husband, somewhere between $20,000 and $55,000, an absolute fortune in that era. They also convinced the couple to leave the country for an extended, luxurious trip to Japan and the Far East during the most critical months of the campaign. The hush money succeeded. Carrie remained silent. Harding won the presidency in one of the greatest landslides in American history, capturing over 60% of the popular vote. But those explosive love letters remained hidden like a time bomb waiting to detonate. Long after his death. Part 3. The Young Admirer, the Secret Child, and the White House Trysts. While the Carrie Phillips affair was the longest and most politically risky, it was far from Harding's only relationship. One of the most famous involved a much younger woman named Nan Britton from Marion itself. As a teenager, Nan developed an intense, almost obsessive crush on the handsome editor of the Marion Star. She would stand outside his office for hours just to catch a glimpse of him. By the time Nan reached her early 20s and Harding was a U.S. Senator in his early 50s. That childhood admiration had transformed into a passionate, physical affair that began around, according to Nan's own detailed later account. They met secretly in hotels in Washington, D.C. and other cities. After Harding became president in 1921, she claimed their encounters continued. Inside the White House, one of the most sensational stories she told described them making love in a small broom closet near the Oval Office, while Secret Service agents stood guard and a public tour group walked past just outside the door. In 1919, Nan became pregnant. On October 22nd of that year, she gave birth to a daughter named Elizabeth Nan Britton. Warren Harding never publicly acknowledged the child, but according to Nan, he provided financial support through trusted friends and intermediaries. He reportedly asked for photographs and referred to the baby affectionately in private as "my dear little daughter." After Harding's sudden death in 1923, Nan approached the Harding family for further support. In 1927, she did something extraordinary. She published a best-selling tell-all book titled Asterisk, The President's Daughter Asterisk. The book described their affair with specific dates, places, and intimate details that scandalized 1920s America. Many people at the time dismissed Nan as a gold digger or liar. Florence Harding had already burned as many of Warren's personal letters and papers as she could find before her own death in 1924, hoping to destroy the evidence forever. For almost 90 years, Nan Britton's story was fiercely debated. Then, in 2015, modern science delivered the final verdict. DNA testing arranged through Ancestry.com and carefully verified by historians and geneticists proved with overwhelming certainty that Elizabeth Ann was indeed the biological daughter of Warren G. Harding. The genetic match was conclusive. After nearly a century, Nan Britton had finally been proven truthful. The president who campaigned on traditional Midwestern values had hidden a secret child from the entire nation. Part 4. The Other Women and His Notorious Reputation. Warren Harding's romantic and sexual entanglements extended well beyond Carrie Phillips and Nan Britton. Biographers and historians have identified at least 4 or 5 other significant relationships, some stretching back to his early years as a young newspaper editor in Ohio. There were rumors of affairs with women on his staff, brief encounters during his Senate years, and even whispers of a relationship with a German-born woman whose connections raised serious espionage concerns during World War I. In the close-knit social circles of Marion, Ohio, the gossip was relentless. Locals joked that Warren Harding had romantic or physical connections with almost every attractive woman in town. His movie star good looks, magnetic personality, effortless charm, and complete inability to say no created a repeating pattern that lasted for decades. Florence Harding was aware of many, if not most, of these affairs. She tolerated them largely because a divorce would have destroyed both their reputations and Warren's rising political career. She once remarked that she had married him fully aware of his weaknesses. Yet the bitterness and emotional strain in their marriage remained constant beneath the surface. The gap between the dignified public image of Senator and later President Harding and the private reality of a man ruled by desire was enormous and growing wider every Part 5. The Road to the Presidency. Despite all the personal complications and scandals quietly brewing in the background, Harding's political career continued its steady upward path. In the United States Senate, he was popular with colleagues, but not considered a particularly distinguished legislator. He avoided strong controversy and focused on maintaining good relationships. When the 1920 Republican National Convention became hopelessly deadlocked, powerful party bosses met in the famous smoke-filled room at the Blackstone Hotel in Chicago and chose Harding as a safe, likable, compromise candidate. His running mate was Calvin Coolidge, Harding ran a brilliantly simple campaign. Instead of traveling the country like his opponent, he conducted a front porch campaign from his home in Marion. Special trains brought thousands of voters to hear him speak. He offered warm, optimistic messages promising healing after the trauma of war and pandemic. America's present need is not heroics, but healing, he declared. Not nostrums, but normalcy. The exhausted American public responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. In November 1920, Warren Harding won 60.3% of the popular vote and carried 48 states of the largest landslides in presidential history. Part 6. Life in the White House, Public Promises and Private Indulgence. Once in the White House, Harding tried to deliver the normalcy he had promised. He reduced taxes, supported the Washington Naval Conference for Disarmament, became the first president to visit Alaska, and spoke in favor of anti-lynching laws. However, his administration quickly became infamous for corruption. Many of his old friends from Ohio, collectively known as the Ohio Gang, were given important positions despite being unqualified. The Teapot Dome scandal saw Secretary of the Interior Albert Fall accept bribes for leasing naval oil reserves. Attorney General Harry Doherty faced accusations of selling influence. Harding reportedly knew his friends were destroying his presidency. He famously told an associate, "I have no trouble with my enemies. I can take care of them. But my damn friends, they're the ones that keep me walking the floors at night." While these political scandals grew, Harding's private life continued much as before. There were late-night poker games in the White House with illegal bootleg liquor during Prohibition. There were discreet visits from women, sometimes quietly arranged with assistance from members of the Secret Service. The contrast between the public image of presidential dignity and the private reality of indulgence and poor personal judgment became impossible to ignore. Part 7. Sudden Death, Rumors, and the Burning of Evidence. In the summer of 1923, exhausted by stress and declining health, President Harding embarked on a long cross-country voyage of understanding to reconnect with the American people. The trip took him through the western states and all the way to Alaska. On August 2, 1923, while staying at the Palace Hotel in San Francisco, Warren Gamaliel Harding died suddenly at the age of 50. The official cause was listed as a cerebral hemorrhage or heart attack. Almost immediately, dark rumors began to spread. Some whispered he had been poisoned, with wild theories even suggesting that Florence herself had administered the poison to spare him from the shame of impending impeachment. Over the Ohio gang scandals, most historians reject these poisoning theories as unfounded. Florence Harding acted with remarkable speed. She collected vast quantities of letters, documents, and personal papers from the White House and their Marion home and burned them in large bonfires. Her clear goal was to protect her husband's legacy by destroying evidence of his many affairs and indiscretions. She died herself only 15 months later in 1924. With both of them gone, the truth began to emerge slowly but relentlessly. Part 8. Explosive Revelations, DNA Proof, and a Ruined Legacy. In 1927, Nan Britton published The President's Daughter, which caused a national sensation. The Carrie Phillips love letters eventually surfaced through court cases and academic archives. When they were finally made public, readers were stunned by their passionate and explicit content. The Teapot Dome scandal exploded into congressional investigations, trials, and ruined reputations. Harding's once sky-high popularity collapsed. For decades afterward, historians ranked him near the bottom of all American presidents, not because he was malicious, but because he was weak, overly trusting of corrupt friends, and unable to control his own personal desires. From a modern perspective, many of Harding's relationships raise serious questions about power imbalances and consent, especially with much younger women like Nan Britton. Yet the surviving letters also revealed genuine emotional attachment. In several cases, the cover-ups were extensive. The Republican Party's hush money payments to Carrie Phillips represent one of the earliest, large-scale examples of political bribery to hide sexual misconduct. Florence's destruction of documents was a deliberate attempt to rewrite history. Only the 2015 DNA test finally forced the world to accept the complete truth of Nan Britton's story. Part 9. Final Reflection: The Man Behind the Smile. Warren Harding himself seemed to understand his limitations. He reportedly told close friends on multiple occasions that he was not fit for the presidency and should never have been nominated. Most historians today agree with that honest self-assessment. He lacked the bold vision of Theodore Roosevelt or the intellectual depth of Woodrow Wilson. While his administration achieved some genuine successes, including naval disarmament treaties, budget reforms, and efforts at national healing, these accomplishments have been completely overshadowed by corruption and personal scandal. When compared to later presidents such as John F. Kennedy or Bill Clinton, whose own sexual misconduct became public, Harding's story feels uniquely tragic. He had neither the protection of martyrdom nor the benefit of living in an era of immediate public reckoning. His secrets emerged slowly after his death, permanently destroying his historical reputation. In the end, Warren Gamaliel Harding was a profoundly human figure. His greatest strength, his extraordinary charm and likability, became his greatest weakness. He could not say no to his friends, and he could not say no to women. That single character flaw carried him from newspaper editor all the way to the White House and ultimately helped destroy his legacy. The president who promised America normalcy lived anything but a normal life. He slept with enough women to earn one of the most sensational reputations in presidential history. Today, visitors can tour the Harding Home and Presidential Library in Marion, Ohio. Scholars continue to study the surviving letters. The descendants of his secret daughter, Elizabeth Ann, quietly acknowledge their remarkable ancestry. Modern DNA testing has forced us to confront the full, unfiltered story. Warren Harding's life remains one of the most powerful, cautionary tales in American history. It proves that charm without character and power without discipline can lead to personal and national disaster. The American president who slept with everyone stands as one of the most fascinating, flawed, and unforgettable men ever to occupy the Oval Office.